There's a whole lot of news to get to with the Marlins this weekend. The starting pitching was awful, and the Marlins lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. But arguably the biggest storyline, Agustin Ramirez, is coming up.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been podcasting about the Marlins for almost 3 years now. You can find me at Jeremiah Geiger 2 over on X. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you're subscribed. And it's Monday, so joining me on the show is LMF. And this episode, I want to remind you, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And now we welcome LMF into the show. How are you doing?
We're doing okay. It's Monday morning. You got to be happy. You got to start the week off right. We ended the week on a good note, so let's start it on the same way. Probably almost as worse of a baseball week as we could have speculated. You know, last Monday you and I discussed it. It's a make or break week for the Marlins going against the Diamondbacks last week, then the Phillies over the weekend, and getting 1 win, 5 losses. That hurts. But it's a brand new day and it starts now. Let's go.
Plenty to talk about in this episode. We're going to break down the Philly series. We're going to talk about Agustin Ramirez. He's getting called up. He's going to make his major league debut. Talk later on in the show about the starting pitching. Why has it been so awful? And then also the repercussions to the unfortunate Griffin Conine injury. That's coming all up in today's show. First off, LMF, let's talk about this Phillies series. A little review of a series in which the Marlins felt outmatched. The Phillies dominated offensively. It felt like the Marlins couldn't stop anything. They were scoring at will. They did take the final game of the series, salvaged that final game, but overall, they ran into a buzzsaw.
It was a tale of two stories for each team. The Marlins starting pitching was complete garbage. I don't want to say that about Sandy on Friday. I hate saying that about Saturday with Kyle, and then of course yesterday with Gillespie. But man, did our starters just stink up the joint. Their starters, awful. On the other half, were great, right? They held us down. We faced our old friend Luzardo yesterday, got a run off him, and then another run that was off an error, so it didn't count against him. But really, overall, the tale was our starting pitching versus their starting pitching, total mismatch. But flip that, and let's get to the bullpens, right? Bullpens over the weekend, Marlins weren't great, right? They had some glimmers of glowing a little bit. You know, Monteverde getting his major league start on Saturday, or major league debut, I should say, Saturday, and then on Sunday, Cade something, I forget his last name.
Cade Gibson.
Cade Gibson making his major league debut, and he looked good, man. I love the confidence in that young man, that young lefty. But our bullpen did well. On the other side, the Phillies bullpen was complete garbage on Saturday and Sunday. We even made it a game on Saturday night, you know, scoring 6 runs in the 10th. How do you not love a team that scores 6 runs in the 10th and lose eventually 10-11? But then Sunday, you come back against their bullpen. Beautiful game by Javier. Sanoa, I'm forgetting the last name. Javier Sanoa had such a great game on Sunday. We'll get into that. And really, 1 win, 5 losses on the week. You ended on a good note, though. Tale of two teams, or 2 pitching staffs for both the Marlins and the Phillies.
It was a tough weekend for the Marlins with many aspects. We're going to talk about Griffin Conine. He went down in Saturday's game, and I was at the beach, and I'm looking at the score, and it's like 11-4, and I see Conine's injured. I'm like, how could this game get any worse? And then, like you said, they did make it a game. They scored 6 in the 9th. Liam Hicks hit his first homer. You had a 3-run jack from Dane Myers, but it was just not enough because of the hole that they had put themselves into. The Marlins, both games, the Sandy Alcantara start, Sandy really looked off, man. I don't know what it is, if this is just a blip on the radar, because you're not going to win a lot of games when you put yourself in that position. When before the game even starts, practically, you're down 6-7-0. That's what it felt like on Friday and Saturday. And the Marlins were lucky to win this last game because Luzardo did pitch really well. And the Marlins were really slow offensively until the final innings. Javier Sanoja, how about the game he had? 3 for 4 with a jack. Absolutely crushed that home run. That was surprising to see. It's just, we talked about this last week, LMF, about the series that the Marlins were going to play against the Phillies and Diamondbacks. We knew they were tough teams, and they showed it. They had our number. We won one game. But Agustin Ramirez, let's talk about him and discuss the feelings we're having, knowing that he's going to be in the lineup this week. I'm pumped. I can't wait to see this move. I think it's the right move, and they finally did it.
Well, I've saved this for a Locked On Marlins exclusive right here. Who broke that news, Jeremiah? Who broke it on Twitter?
You
2
did.
hours before
LMF.
Craig Mish
Yep.
had it. I broke that news, and I'll tell you how that happened. You know, I have conversations with random people from time to time. I give them my phone number. I say, if you ever have anything, let me break it. Tell me it. I'll do it. I will never drop your name down. Well, someone wrote me. And this is before the Brantley injury, and I'll get to that. So the guy, the person, male or female, wrote me, and I'm texting with them, and I'm just like, they said there's conversations that Agustin Ramirez is going to be coming up to the major league team in the Red Series. So I texted Eli because I'm closer with Eli than any other member on the Fish on First team. And I wrote Eli, I go, when does that service time manipulation thing end? And it was last week, he told me. So that's when I put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, you know what? He is going to be coming up. And I felt comfortable enough to actually put breaking news and the day or the series he's going to be making his debut in. Now, the timing was crazy because right after, as I'm in the conversation with Eli, I think right before I sent the tweet, Rob Brantley got injured. So then it was like a foregone conclusion that it was going to happen. So Brantley gets injured. Now it's like, all right, it's definitely happening. People are just going to say, oh, he's just tweeting it because of the Brantley injury. No, it was something. And Isaac Azut backed me in the Marlins Spaces last night, where he said that the conversations have been going on since last night. So I was hearing the same things they just didn't break it, and I broke it. And Craig will never give me credit for it because he doesn't have that in him to do it. But I did break it 2 hours before he did. So thanks to those who follow me. Now, what does this mean for the team? Let's get into that. That means a few things. One, the Jazz Chisholm Jr. trade is going to become a lot more meaningful to see how that flip happens a lot sooner than we expected. Later down the season, we expected Agustin to come up. Now, is he or is he not a catcher? We're going to see that quickly.
I still don't think he's a catcher.
Right.
I really don't.
A lot of people believe that same sentiment.
Right.
But we only have now 2 catchers available on the 40-man roster, and that's Liam Hicks, who's coming up from Double-A to this season. That's his first home run. Good for him. Congrats on Saturday night. Now you have Agustin Ramirez, who really, we don't throw it to second anyway. We never throw anybody out. So I'm not going to expect much defense from him other than to try to block the balls. I expect power. We need him to hit. We need a catcher who hits consistently, not the maybe you get a single here, maybe you hit a home run every 90 at-bats. I want a guy. We want his bat, and maybe he fills in the DH down the road, and Joe Mack gets a chance. But it's big. It's big for the team. Thoughts?
It's huge. I think it's great for the Marlins. It's showing the fans that there's tangible results from the Jazz Chisholm trade onto the field. These prospects that a lot of the casual fans might not know a ton about are going to start learning the name Agustin Ramirez. He's an absolute force. He can hit for power. He can hit for average. He'll draw his walks. You look at his highlights, every single double, home run, it's almost each and every time over 100 miles an hour. It sounds like a rocket off the bat. He's an instant impact to this lineup. And I think even if he doesn't perform above average defensively, like you said, this team already is terrible defensively at catcher. They can't throw anybody out. I mean, the pitchers aren't doing them any favors, but this is awesome. Ramirez is going to have an opportunity to stick in the Marlins lineup. It wasn't because of the Brantley injury that he got called up. He forced his way onto this Marlins lineup because of the way he's hitting the baseball in AAA. He's a great prospect. I really believe he can be the next great Marlins player, the next cornerstone of this franchise. This franchise has been looking for a player to gravitate toward offensively. They had Jazz. They have Connor Norby. Can Agustin Ramirez factor in? I think he has all the tools to, and I think he can become the next really good all-star player that the Marlins have. And I'm not going to say homegrown, but to a degree, yes, he is a homegrown Marlin now. Once he makes his debut, it's a lot like Sandy Alcantara. The potential is so bright, and I'm just so excited that they didn't wait 3 or 4 months down the road, and everybody's wondering, why are we watching Hicks and Fortes and Rob Brantley? No disrespect to them, but it's time for a splash. We needed this spark as Marlins fans, and I think Ramirez is going to bring it.
Well, Hicks has to stay on this roster, right? Or else he gets sent back to the team.
And I think he does.
Fortes comes back, let's say in the next month, they have to keep Ramirez up, and you have to put him at DH. You can't have him sitting, right? You have to have him in the zone, and hopefully he is in the zone getting his at-bats. But it's going to be interesting to see down the line how they have it. But right now, it's his moment. It's his to steal from Hicks, if anything. Because you know what? We've seen who Liam Hicks is. He's a serviceable catcher, but he doesn't bring the bat that Agustin. I keep saying Agustin. That's how I'm always going to pronounce it. But how he's going to be when he gets up here. And I'm excited for it. You got Jared Cerna in that trade, also in the Jazz trade. He's good in Double-A right now. But you're seeing fruition already. Deals that Peter Bendix made last year. You mentioned it before. We mentioned it before in the show. You got this last week even the Stowers and Norby for Trevor Rogers. Now you're going to see what comes to fruition for the Jazz Chisholm Jr. Move. And you know what, Jazz, love the guy. And I do love Jazz. Y'all love Jazz? I do. But he's struggling right now, right? He's not had the best month since the first weekend of the league, so of the young season. So we're going to see if this young guy has Peter Bendix cooking a little bit more, and I am excited to see it. And congrats to him on earning the opportunity to come up.
And really quickly before the break, last thing I'll talk about Ramirez right now is, even if his catching, you don't envision him being the catcher of the future because there's Joe Mack, his bat should absolutely be in the lineup every day, whether that's at DH or first base. There's nothing that should hold him back from every opportunity to succeed and getting that playing time.
I want to see how he compares to William Contreras, who is now moved more to a DH first baseman than a catcher. Contreras, when he got traded to St. Louis, apparently forgot how to catch. I want to see how I'm using him as the line to see how good Agustin Ramirez is going to be.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about the starting pitching for the Marlins this weekend. It was absolutely horrendous. It really can't get much worse. That's coming up right after this. Do you ever check your bank account and you wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals, such as maybe going to some Marlins games or baseball games all over the country. Managing your money with your partner is smoother than ever. Also, you can track shared and personal accounts, set your goals, stay on the same page without the stress. So, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. If you're interested in this, use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you're an everyday listener, thank you for being a part of the Locked On Marlins crew. If this is your first episode checking out Locked On Marlins, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any other future episodes. And I'm here with LMF. We're talking about the starting pitching this series, or this past series, against the Phillies. There's really no other words to describe it other than awful. I mean, it was awful. Sandy Alcantara gets blown up. Cal Quantrol gets blown up. Connor Gillespie, he was okay, but certainly not a very strong start. I just look at this team, and the weakness right now clearly is the back half of the rotation, because the Quantrol signing has blown up in their face. He's horrendous. Sandy Alcantara was not pitching like Sandy Alcantara, and Gillespie is just this guy that's just taking up a rotation spot right now.
I will say the only thing good about this rotation right now is Max Meyer. That's the only good part of this rotation, at least in this last week. And he didn't even have a great game against the Diamondbacks. He had a good game versus the Diamondbacks in which he lost. But I expect Sandy to be better than he played on Sunday. I like to give stats, right? I like to compare and contrast former starts to current starts. Sandy had the same start last year in the first away start for him at Citizens Bank Park.
Well, 2 years ago. Because
2 years ago, you're right. I'm sorry, 2023. It all the same to me.
It all blends together.
It all blends together after you watch so much baseball. But Sandy only went 4 innings, gave up 9 runs in that game. And got pulled early from Skip Schumacher. That was probably his worst game of that season. I expect this to be his worst game of this season. And yes, he did come back the next game and get a victory. But yeah, he just looked like he was tired right from the start. He didn't seem sparked and animated. And for the limited animation that he has, you just didn't see it right from the beginning. I suggest that's becoming a father again for his second time. His little baby girl was just born a couple weeks ago. But he said at the end of the game, he needs to go back to the old Sandy. He needs to be himself again. So whatever changes this team has done to his weekly sessions or any changes to his preparation, even telling him, hey, we're only going to keep you out there for X minutes. Maybe it's messing with his head.
They just got to leave him alone. Like, let him do his thing.
Let Sandy
be
Sandy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the one guy is Cal Quantrol. Sandy Alcantara is not going to be a 7 ERA pitcher the rest of the year.
No.
He's too good, too talented. I'm not worried about him getting blown up every start. Cal Quantrol, it feels like anytime he's out there, they're going to lose. They have no chance. He can't strike out a hitter to save his life. He walks a ton of people. I mean, 2 starts ago, he walked 5 in 5 innings. And he's supposed to be the veteran presence, the cheap veteran addition to eat up innings. He's been the complete opposite. It's horrible. And it's frustrating. It's really frustrating watching this guy pitch.
Yeah, you mentioned walking and not striking out and giving up runs. Are you talking about Call Control or are you talking about Edward Cabrera? I don't know which one, because they're equally as bad in different points in their career.
Right.
Look, Call Control chose the Marlins instead of taking a 2-year deal with the Rockies. He wanted to prove he still has it, but he's
He
pitching
doesn't.
less like himself from a couple years ago than more or less pitching like Johnny Cueto did as a Marlin just 2 years ago. I equate them at this point because neither one of them seemed to be able to come back to their old stuff, and they were at different points in their career. Cueto way towards the end, but Quantrol needs to pick it up. He didn't have such a bad start in his last start, but the start Saturday was just horrendous. And Gillespie didn't do much better on Sunday. I'm sorry, but there are reserves coming, and that's Ryan Weathers pretty soon, and Yuri Perez. Yuri got his bullpen going on earlier this week, and they're expecting him in June, not even July. So that's really exciting that we have some reserves coming back up.
It would be a huge addition if Yuri comes up earlier. I don't want them to rush it because if Miami falls out of contention, there really wouldn't be a reason to rush it. Now, with Quantrol, I just wonder how long of a leash he has. We saw what they did with Jonah Bride. Bride was great last season. Everybody on Marlins Twitter was saying Jonah Bride, what him, essentially just got rid of him after 2 weeks. Like, how much more is Peter Bendix going to take if Cal Quantrill goes out there every 5th day and can't strike out anybody and just gives up a ton of hard contact and is just a liability? I really wonder, especially like the depth. You have Beozo in AAA. I know Beozo's not special, but I'd rather see Beozo pitch than Quantrill. I'd rather see Adam Major make his Marlins debut. He's had major league experience. Major could take his spot. I just feel like right now it reminds me so much of the Tim Anderson signing a year ago. You take a chance on a player who was really bad and say, okay, here's a few million. Maybe it works out and we flip you at the deadline. And if it doesn't, they're going to part ways. That's what they did with TA. I think the same fate could be in play for Quantrill.
Well,
I really
do. You got to assume his next start's going to be in Seattle next week. Next week.
That's a good pitcher's park.
And then we're in LA after that. So I'd rather him get his outing out in Seattle this week. But for every pitcher in our rotation, including Max, who's been really good, they have to step it up another level. Whether that's the staff allowing them go an extra inning, get to the third time in the order, and stop pulling everybody so early. They have to give this bullpen some rest because you're every day now, like you mentioned, Cade getting called up. We mentioned Cade getting called up on Sunday. Patrick Monteverde on Saturday, and Patrick did well. Gave up 4 runs. I like the kid. He was a, I think, 7th round or 8th round pick for us in the draft. I think 2021 or 2020, one of those years. But I think that he had potential to even be a starter. So they DFA'd him. I hope he clears it. He stays with the team. Even though he had options, they had to DFA him to get another pitcher up because his arm was dead. But they are blowing out the bullpen, and we're not even through the first month of the season. We're only 3 weeks in, and you're blowing those bullpen arms out. George Soriano, speaking of bullpen, he's off the team now, and I don't mind that move of any moves. He was a great guy, but he was pretty bad. And you hope he clears and he gets better. But pitching is a big issue. You would have went into the season and said, man, you got all these rookie guys coming up. We don't know if they could hit or they strike out, that the bats would be the issue. But the bats, give or take, Jonah Bride, who's no longer with us, Wagaman's, I think, on an 8-game hit streak as of yesterday's games. No one's struggling that much. You got Mervis, who got a double yesterday. That was great. It's
all been the pitching,
right? It's
like for the most part. I think with what were we saying before when it comes to the pitching staff, and Max Meyer's been the best starter, the most consistent starter, without a doubt. I think that you look at the middle relievers, like that middle part of the game, we've seen a lot of starter type profiles like Monteverde, Cade Gibson, who can give you depth and gives you multiple innings. Ronnie Enriquez is another guy. That's what Clayton McCullough has started to do the last week or so, especially in these games in which it might not be a total blowout, but when your starter gives you 4 or 5 innings, you need to get through the rest of the game. That's where Monteverde comes in and gives you 3, or Cade Gibson gives you 2. Ronnie Enriquez, Tyler Phillips is another guy. They have a ton of these profiles. And it feels like a very unconventional way of a bullpen and how they use the bullpen compared to the last few years. I mean, the last few years we had AJ Puck, Tanner Scott, and you knew those guys were coming in close games. Now you're kind of limited. Fauché, Bender, I guess Tinoco, depending on his workload, if he can be the closer. And then you have Lake Bacher. But the usage is just kind of all over the place. So it's really important that the starters give you something. And nobody has done it except Max. Literally no one.
It's strange how they are using him. You know, Bender, I thought was going to be a late inning guy. Now they're using him.
I did too.
Now they're using him in the 6th or the 7th instead of the 8th or 9th. Tinoco, the same thing. I mean, I think he got the win yesterday. I think he was in there in the last inning that they pitched on Sunday.
He got the save.
The save. You're right. They had the lead, so he got the save, which shows they have a lot of confidence in him. I'm glad he's back because when he was out for those couple weeks, it was tough to tell who was going to step up into that game. Was it going to be Fauché or was it going to be Bender? But Bender's taken a step back, I think, too. You know, he looked good on the first batter he faced yesterday, but then he walked the guy right after, and some defensive blunders gave up the lead. You know, and that scares me too a little bit. Otto Lopez has taken a step back this week with his bat since the first week, and his defense on Sunday. You know, I don't even know if they marked him errors, but those 2 last plays in I think it was the 8th inning when we had the lead after the monster home run. He had 2 plays, 1-2 that was an easy double play that would have ended the inning, and then again a throw to first base he juggled and missed the guy, so the Phillies tied it before it went into extras. But yeah, you know, big things happening this week. Marlins are home versus the Reds. You got Ramirez come up. That's exciting. And you got us going to the West Coast for I don't know if Seattle's a good team, bad team. They're just a team. That's in the West. I think they all beat up on each other. But then we get to another tough week versus Los Angeles.
And it doesn't get any easier.
No.
And they're going to be without one of their best players to start the season. Griffin Conine is out for a long time. He dislocated his left shoulder in Saturday's game. Me and LMF, we're going to discuss the repercussions of that unfortunate injury right after this. Thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. You can always listen to the podcast. We're on pretty much every single major podcast platform. And Griffin Conine is on the 60-day injured list. Dislocated left shoulder, immediately placed on the IL. It's really sad news just for Griffin and the start that he's had to this season and his major league career. And it's cut short. I'm not saying he's out for the year. I'm not going to speculate, but it's not good. He's going to be out at least 2 months, and that's the bare minimum if everything goes well. A shoulder is tricky, especially when it comes to an outfielder. I know it's not his throwing arm, but I mean, it affects your ability to swing the bat, the rotation. It's not good. It was a really freak play, diving into second base. Didn't look too bad on TV, but then you just saw how much pain he was in. I hate this. I hate it for him. I hate it for the Marlins because now there is a gaping hole in their lineup, in their outfield. Conine really came into his own this season. I don't think you can necessarily just replace it. You're going to have to work some things out. You're going to have to really be creative when it comes to piecing together the lineup to get that production you needed.
It's sad to see Conine go down.
Yeah.
I want to wish him well if he watches this. You say, oh, you plop the shoulder back in, but it's not that simple with a torn shoulder. He might need surgery. We'll find out later today when it's announced. He's getting the X-rays, the MRIs done now that they're back in South Florida today. We'll see what the outcome is. I will say and go on record that he will not be back this season if he has surgery.
I think surgery he's done.
And it just from how quickly it all transpired, they didn't wait a day to even put him on the IL. They know it's bad, and we wish him the best in a quick recovery. He was having a great season for him. A couple weeks here, 285, couple home runs, great defensive plays. I think he had 5 defensive plays that they were 25% chance or less for the ball to fall or whatnot, or be a home run even. It's going to be tough losing him in the outfield. I think that we'll see Dane Myers step up a little bit more, be in more games. Kyle Stowers will have to step up. And this was a big thing, another thing that happened that kind of pushed Ramirez into coming up. Losing Conine after losing Bride's potential really left this team with Matt Mervis as their only power. I know you're going to say Sanchi, but he hasn't hit a home run yet. So until he does, he's just in the lineup. No, it really left us with Sanchi and Mervis, and they had to get someone else up who could add pop. And that's it's going to be we're going to miss Conine and welcome Ramirez in his place.
And Sanoha is probably going to have to carry some of the load. He had a great game Sunday. He can play all over the diamonds, but now especially with Conine's absence, I mean, Dane Myers, Javier Sanoha, expect to see these guys get a lot more playing time. I already said before Dane Myers should be playing every day, but this definitely solidifies that, especially with Derek Hill being on the injured list also. But the Conine injury, it sucks. It really does. There's no other way to put it. It's shocking just how fleeting a season can go from a player, from being on top of the world. All the Marlins fans are like, this guy's breaking out. I was listening to the Just Baseball podcast, and there was Aram Layton talking about the top 10 rookies, and Griffin Conine's name was mentioned because of the start he was having. And all of that is gone right now. The Marlins, McCullough's going to have to scheme up something. He's going to have to get production and kind of ride the hot hand, because Conine really hadn't hit a lot of homers, but he was doing everything else. He was hitting the doubles. At one point, he had the hardest hit ball in all the major leagues, and now that's taken away from you. Sanoha isn't the power threat. Dane Myers can still bring power, but I want to see it consistently. I want to see his bat in the lineup. If anything positive can be taken away from this injury, it will be Dane Myers proving himself in an expanded role, I think.
And we haven't even mentioned the call-up of Ronnie Stokey.
Ronnie Simon, yeah.
Ronnie Simon, there you go. Ronnie Simon was called up. Javier Sano is going to get more outfield. Simon basically comes in and plays his role. And I did want to, before all the news came out, maybe we could do this next week, I want to have a conversation with you about building like a team within our team and how they can build and play some small ball around them. Obviously, we don't have the time on this episode because of the news that broke yesterday. But maybe next week we'll do that and talk about how Simon and Sanoha can be used to their greatest potential.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because when you have a team that isn't built around stars, like the Phillies or the Mets, their managers have easy jobs. You plug and play your stars. Juan Soto is going to play, Francisco Lindor, Bryce Harper. The Marlins, you're going to have a ton of moving pieces. Ronnie Simon, really quickly, as we're about out of time here, he can play all over. I've seen him play in the outfield. He can play the infield. He has a really good arm. So happy for Simon. He was tearing it up in AAA in Jacksonville, slashing some crazy numbers. Average was well above 300. So he's definitely earned a shot in the major leagues. And it's exciting to see him and Agustin Ramirez, especially this week. That this is going to be the storyline as we get out of here, LMF. Agustin Ramirez making his major league debut. I can't wait. We're going to talk a lot about it this week on the podcast. But for now, LMF, I want to thank you once again for joining on Locked On Marlins, as always, every Monday.
Yep, and let's get louder. You could always find me on any of the social media sites at Loud Miami Fan.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. For your second listen, go check out the new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night. It's on the Locked On MLB channel. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.